This is Paul Wilson.
And I'm Danny Voss.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Danny, a lot of cool stuff going on in the industry lately, huh?
Always, Paul. Come on, man.
I think one of the coolest things going on right now is we're all getting really excited for the Diesel Power Challenge. That's coming up June 4th through the 8th out there in Denver. We just got confirmation. We are going to be working on getting interviews with as many contenders or competitors at the challenge as we can.
We're going to find out what it takes to be in the Diesel Power Challenge.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, as we know, LaVon Miller started out there.
That's right.
Yeah, he won it back-to-back, and then now he won the UCC back-to-back.
That's right.
So who's going to be the next LaVon Miller?
I mean, we'll see. They've changed the rules a little bit because of LaVon. No more shop trucks was a big thing, and no more repeat winners. So if you win, and now is it if you win once, you can't come back next year, or twice?
Twice.
So if you win twice, they don't allow you for a three-peat. It keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
I get why they did it. We interviewed KJ, so if you'd like to know more about Diesel Power Challenge, go back and look for editor of Diesel Power Magazine, KJ Jones. Had an awesome interview with him, a great episode. Tonight, we're actually going to do another rebroadcast. So Danny and I, we do a lot of work over here at Duramax Tuner and Calibrated Power.
We're going to relax today.
Yeah, sometimes that work spills into our podcast time. This was one of them. So we thought we'd give you guys a little gem. Way back when we first started the podcast, a big throwback, we did a 15K budget build. Myself, Scott Henricks, Chris Ehmke, and Pete Shibby got together, and we argued.
Well, you always argue, but this is before even my time.
Oh, yeah. This was the episode before Danny started.
Mm-hmm.
Scott was still hosting with me. He was the moderator. And we basically, same concept. We were all given an imaginary $15,000, told to buy a truck, had to make 600 horsepower, had to run 12 fives in the quarter, had to make 1,000 foot-pounds of torque.
And I'm not trying to spoil this episode for the people that haven't listened to it, but Paul, I think you were freaking spot on.
I crushed it.
I know you did.
I know I did.
One day in a row, you crushed it.
And as always, we want to give a big shout out to Calibrated Power and Duramax Tuner for sponsoring the show, making this possible for us to be able to present it to you guys. If you want to show your appreciation, just buy something from Duramax Tuner or Calibrated Power. We will show your appreciation for being a listener by throwing in a free t-shirt anytime we're shipping something to you.
It's got a turbo on it.
It does have a turbo on it.
Heck
Good call.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening. Hope you enjoy this rebroadcast of 15K budget build.
The following podcast contains explicit language.
This is the Diesel Performance Podcast, and I'm Paul Wilson.
And Scott Henricks.
Scott, I'm really excited about today's episode. We have something that I'm really passionate about. I think something that all of our listeners are really passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's basically, we're looking at this situation is going to be kind of like a fantasy build type of situation given certain criteria. If you want to kind of lead us into that?
Absolutely, yeah. So what we thought of was, what do you guys talk about the most? And that's budget builds. That's really where the focus is at. So we started off with a $15,000 pot. You got 15,000 imaginary dollars, and you need to build a truck that can make 600 horsepower, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, and run under a 13-second quarter mile.
Yep. So we got all of that. We wanted to make sure the big three were covered. So we had Powerstroke, Cummins, Duramax as well, and kind of a either an expert and or enthusiast.
Yeah, I like that.
Right?
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So we all can't be experts. So expert, enthusiast for each. We assume that, so $15,000 pot, you present this to I guess the guy with the $15,000, and whoever has the best build or what have you, they would get the money to purchase said truck.
Absolutely, yeah. So what we want you guys to try as listeners is get together with a group with somebody who has 15 grand cash.
Yeah, he's probably sitting right next to you.
And whoever comes up with the best budget build for $15,000 gets the money.
There you go. Right? That's exactly what happened, isn't it? Not even close. Not even close. But it was definitely it was a ton of fun. You wanna roll into that?
Let's do it.
We've got Pete, Shibby.
Yes.
Yep. And also we are joined by partner in crime, Chris Ehmke. Chris, how you doing today?
Great.
Awesome. And then we've got our very own Paul Wilson.
That's right. I'm here.
All right, guys. So what is Paul? You want to run me through what do we got going on? What are you guys up to?
Yeah, Scott, I'm really excited about this. Chris is a coworker of mine. We're over at Duramax Tuner, and we know Shibby, of course, from WC Fab. Chris and I got into we'll call it conversation the other day about what was the best way to build a budget build, like a real budget build. $15,000 cash, buy the truck, buy all the mods, install everything, walk home with something that we consider at least a respectable street truck. So 600 horsepower plus, over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. And we use drag racing for the baseline here, so it has to run under a 13-second quarter mile.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do then is with those criteria, I will be the judge. I guess we'll go through, right? Go around the room. You guys let me know what it is you picked. We'll talk about what your plans are, why your plans are that. The rest of us will tear that plan down as much as we can and just try to make you feel as bad about your decision as we possibly can. You guys stay strong. Who wants to go first?
I mean,
let
losers
Mr. Head
first.
Gaskets go first.
Yeah.
With his LB7, injectors, pump, everything.
Rods. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
I mean, are
Brandon
you still
Payton.
getting a truck for $15,000 with the cab intact, or like
love-
what do we got going on there?
Got a Brandon Payton special.
First of all, I love that Chris says this. Chris is the number one person to underestimate the value of anything he is buying and overestimate the value of anything he is selling.
But I prove every time that it's worth what I pay and it's worth what I get. So it doesn't matter what I over or underestimate.
If Chris
I
had
make it
picked,
happen.
if Chris had picked LB7 as his truck, he would tell you he could buy one for $5,000,
It's been done.
build the trans for $2,000,
It's also been done.
find a $500 turbo, and turn around and sell it for $20,000.
$15,000, but it's definitely doable.
See, this is what I'm saying. So what I picked was an 02 LB7. I found it for sale down in Kansas City, $9,200, fresh injectors.
Perfect.
Just saying.
How many miles were on that truck?
There was a
300.
number.
Okay, so I'm just there's a serious reason why I'm
No,
asking.
I'm with you. Okay, so it actually was about 180.
Okay, that's not bad.
That's what I
Definitely
thought.
lower than I thought.
Fresh injectors, has a lift pump, has exhaust intake, boost increase valve, and that was about it. I mean, he listed 15 other things, but they were
Basically fully built in Craigslist standards.
yes,
Now,
yes, exactly.
the one stipulation that I have with that is you are buying a truck that's already been modified. So, not every scenario, not any person listening is going to go on their local Craigslist, let's say, and buy that budget truck with the
with an intake and exhaust.
cut the injectors out of it, the lift pump, the exhaust, the intake. I mean, those three components right there are over $1,000.
Okay, but how many LB7s do you find that don't have an intake and exhaust already on them?
I mean, I can go on Craigslist right now locally and find 10.
Okay, but I found one that has it, so I win.
Okay, I mean, when my truck's done and your truck's done, I'm still walking your ass, so it doesn't
we'll
really
see.
matter.
We'll see. Okay, first mod, Guarantor converter, triple disc, billet stator, looking $1,600. We sell them. I know that. Suncoast G-Max 5.3 kit, $1,780. Stealth 64, $1,850. Total build cost with parts, $14,430. I know for a fact the truck's going to make over 600 horse, like 605-ish. It'll definitely beat the 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, and we've seen them run anywhere down to 12.2 up to 12.8.
That is, you're 100% correct with that.
So boom,
Yeah.
budget build, mic drop.
No,
Now, how much did the fresh injectors contribute to that horsepower increase?
Okay, so
Fresh.
here's the thing on fresh injectors. We all know that every LB7 ever sold on Craigslist says fresh injectors. Okay, there's going to be a toss up. Could that cost you another $4,000? Absolutely, but you're taking it on what it is. I can only go off of the Craigslist ad.
right. I mean, one of the big things too is you found like a diamond in the rough. You're not always going to find a truck that has fresh injectors, has those parts on there. If this was a little different, you are honestly going to pay $7,000-$8,000 for a budget LB7. Cut the injectors out of the equation. There's going to be another $1,000 to $1,500 there in intake, exhaust, cold air, or lift pump, I should say.
Well, and the big thing too that is one thing to throw in factor too is the CP3 pump healthy, doesn't need head gaskets. Yeah. I'll touch base when I go over my build on. I kind of did it from a different aspect, so I won't say anything about that until I go.
Let's hear it. That's perfect. Let's hear it, Shibs. What do you got?
All right, so I was given the task of a Ford vehicle, which is a little more challenging. I picked a 6-liter out of the big three, 7.3, 6 liter, 6.4. I found cheap 6.4s, but that's a big risk taking buying those. They're easy to make power with, but you could also easily be 10 grand deep in motor work before you even know it.
Hoorah.
So I spent about 10 minutes on Facebook. I found a 2004 F350 6-liter standard cab locally for $3,500 with a wiring harness issue. I had a couple new parts on it.
It is true. I saw that. It's white.
Yep. So it's got the nice 05 front end
Oh,
on it
yeah.
and
She was
everything.
nasty. I thought about buying it to flip.
So, I figured into my price of the build just paying asking price for it. That's more than fair. It's a work truck. It's nothing fancy, but it looks pretty decent. I went a little over the top on my 2-page list of parts here
Oh my
that I've planned out for
God.
this truck.
Look
Because
at
you
that.
figured it needs
I
2
figured
pages of parts.
I figured buying a cheap truck, buying it as cheap as possible, gives me the most room to make it the most reliable truck
There you go.
for the
That's
for the
true.
guy that maybe isn't going to drive it for a week and resell it. He's going to keep it for a couple years. So I figured buy something cheap. That's more money I can put under the hood.
Right. And that's kind of what, I did on mine, unlike, the third person in the room.
Well, and the big
Who did it
benefit
right?
to a 6-liter over a 6.4 is a 6-liter is a lot more user friendly for the DIY mechanic. He can work on it in his garage. You guys can't see in the video, but I'm showing a picture of Chad Brinkman's 6-liter with the cab being pulled with ratchet straps. So you can do your head gaskets in your garage. You don't have to have a lift. So I guess since we're
That
not
is the
doing...
stupidest idea I have ever seen in a picture. Ever.
Hey, man, you'd be surprised what some people do. I've seen forklifts before. So anyways, I kind of went, like I said, over the top with this build. I'll just kind of ramble off the main points of everything.
No, let's hear it. Give me the full list.
Okay.
I'm dropping the truck off to you at WC Fab.
Well, this is all these parts listed here are all parts that I picked that are what we would consider drop-in or bolt-on. Nothing custom in terms of, you need to have a welder to put this on.
Okay.
You need to have these special tools to do this, to crimp that, whatever. This is something you could build in your garage if you've got a decent set of tools.
Okay.
So I figured this is, let's say 18-year-old Brandon got $15,000 from his parents for a truck, and he's like, I'm going to buy a cheap beater. I want to go fast. So basically, it's not in any particular order of parts here. So basically in this case, he would tear the truck down, take the cab off, pull the heads off. Heads are going to go to the machine shop. They're going to get tested, machine flat, just check all that over. ARP head studs, new head gaskets, a top-end gasket kit, all your miscellaneous hardware and stuff that's non-reusable in safety's sake, exhaust manifold bolts, etc. Fuel filter, oil, power steering fluid, coolant, all that stuff. And then we get into more the inside parts. Doing the EGR delete. This truck's pre-emission standard. It doesn't get tested, so we're fine there. Oil cooler rebuild kit, just OEM. Just a cheap 4-inch MBRP exhaust, $285. And then we get into the more expensive stuff. I got a stage 3 Barter drop-in 6-liter turbo. So it's basically like a Garrett, like a 3794 drop-in charger that's been extensively modified internally. Both turbine and compressor housings machined, larger wheels, vanes modified. That's a $2,500 turbo in itself. The injector modifications, I went with a 190-100 setup. I know that setup is good for 625 plus on the dyno on the right truck. $1,249 for that. Regulated return kit. Anytime you go big injectors like that, you got a regulated return for the fuel pressure. It gets a little when you're running, just the factory fuelable style return. When you're running large injectors like that, your fuel pressure can bounce anywhere from 30 to 80 psi in the middle of a run, and you want to keep it consistent. Got a diesel site adrenaline modified high pressure oil pump, $1,000 there. $400 for an SCT programmer, $150 for a set of 3 custom tunes. I got valve springs, I got push rods, I got an Edge CTS2 on here with an EGT probe, S&B cold air intake. The original problem with the truck was an engine wiring harness. I contacted a guy on Craigslist actually that was parting out a 6-liter. He said $150 for a complete harness, truck side and engine side. So there's
Bullshit.
there's the no.
That's some good. 2 points for research.
I mean, do you want me to cite sources here?
good stuff.
I mean,
Oh, don't worry, I did.
That's a list.
I got links.
Yes. Paul, man, where's your paperwork at?
I got it. I'll email it to you.
He is so full of shit. Get out of here.
I figured about $250 in shipping for all the parts, getting shipped to the guy's house. I mean, it's not.
Let's give or take. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
rough range. Outside of that, and the other thing I have on there too is I got a stage 2 performance intake manifold on there too. Had a little bit of money left over, so those are $800. So I figured, why not, spend every bit of the $15,000 given and truly make the truck a runner and just PCV reroute and all the basic stuff. And then the last thing is that was an early 04 truck, so it has the desirable factory turbo to the guys with the 05 to 07 trucks. Guaranteed get at least $300 out of that. So I put a $300 deduction on there.
You cheap bastard.
So in parts, with $707.13 in tax, if I bought it all locally through a shop,
Okay.
just down the street from me or something, it brings my parts total to $481.23. And then with the price of the truck at $3,500, that brings the total bill to $14,981.23. So, and that's, you research that exact setup online, you call anyone, that's a guaranteed 600 horse minimum setup, 625, 650s in the picture. That stage 3 turbo is a 68 millimeter, just like a fleece cheetah. So we know those are capable of some serious power.
Do you want me to tell you how you disqualified your truck from the running?
Tell me.
You said it would be reliable, and you said it was a 6-liter Ford in the same sentence. So
Well, I
done.
mean, if you
You're
take
out.
a look at this parts list here, I mean, pretty much everything's covered. Unlike your LB7, that's going to blow the head gaskets tomorrow.
Wait, he bought it already modified. It's good to go. The guy
Oh,
said
yeah,
it.
it's
The
fully
guy
built.
said so. Hey,
The
you
guy
know
said it's got good injectors.
Yeah.
I trust people. I'm a trusting person.
I have to work next to him. That sucks.
And then I guess I wanted to touch base a little bit more on, for the Ford guys that probably aren't going to listen to this, why I actually chose what's considered to be the worst of the Ford engines. 7.3s are just ridiculously expensive to make horsepower with.
Yeah, you'll never get there.
You need to switch to a T4 style turbo to make anything out of them. So then you've got, not only an S400 charger, probably a custom specified charger for that truck,
Right.
plus the whole install kit. Entire fuel system needs to be addressed on that pump, regulated return just like the 6-liter, entirely there. It's got a weaker transmission and it's got weaker connecting rods. So 600 horse is borrowed time on that truck. If you're wanting reliable, no go. Same thing with the 6.4. They're super easy to make power. Custom tunes at the rear tires, your 560 to 580. So it's really close in itself there. A couple little bolt-ons will get you right over 6. The problem is heads, head gaskets, injectors, pumps, turbos, up pipes. Tuning, you've got over $1,000 in just a tuning box for the truck itself. That was actually going to be my first pick. I did a little bit of research. The cheapest truck I found was an 08 extended cab long bed 2-wheel drive for $8,500 in Indiana. It was like an old DOT truck, 250,000 miles, and the thing was just raggy.
Yeah.
And I figured it would turn into a serious project just like your LB7. 6 liters, they're flawed from the factory. They're junk. We know this. But they have a really strong transmission in them. The 5R110 is actually just like an Allison, electronically controlled. 600 horse. If the truck's been beat to hell its whole life, it's not going to last forever, but the transmission will take it. It's not like an Allison where you're going to hit limp mode on your way home from getting tuned here. So
but when it goes, it's fucked. I mean, it's just done.
Just like your head gaskets.
Yes.
I mean, we're right in the same ballpark
You
there.
guys keep saying head gaskets, but to be honest with you, LB7s, I've seen 50 LB7s come through the shop since January, and I've seen one head gasket job out of them. Like they're not,
because they've already been done.
they're not
already.
that bad. Head gaskets really aren't that bad on an LB7 unless you're over 650 horse. That's when you would really start
Oh, we
worrying
do
about
stock
them.
ones all the time. It's just I think the majority of those trucks have had them replaced already by now. They're getting to that age.
I think that's tough. I
Beg
think
to
that's
differ.
tough
Beg to
say.
differ. Let me finish now. All the problems, I guess, with these trucks, I tried to resolve within my build. High pressure oil pump, injectors, etc. Things like, little sensors and stuff. Obviously, that's part of maintenance.
Right.
So I tried to cover everything I could. They have a bad reputation, but they're just a blast to drive. Anyone that's driven one, even with just a tune on it, knows that it's a riot.
They are fun.
And you can't beat the sound they make.
Oh, God, I knew you'd say something about the sound.
The big thing, if someone were to do a budget build 6-liter where 15,000 was actually a limit on it, definitely stick with an 03 or early 04 truck. The 04.5 to 07 6-liters have a much different high-pressure oil system, and it's a little more expensive to make flow. You need to look into like a high-pressure oil, actually like crossover line system, which is another $1,500 on top of, some additional parts that those systems have that the early trucks don't. So I would stick with the 0304, and it's going to whoop up on that LB7.
I still question if your regular at-home mechanic can do all of the work you listed.
Honestly,
I think you're talking about somebody who's an experienced diesel tech that works in a shop.
I'm going to agree
and
with
has
Paul
access
on
to a
that.
shop. I don't think your average guy at the shop. How many Fords have you seen come in the shop that somebody started the project or completed a project and completely
we've
screwed
had
the pooch?
in the
A lot.
2 years and 2 months I've been at Worley's, we did one basket case 6-liter that came in, in parts. And when I worked at Dan's, I did none. I never had one. They always came in running. They're such a simplistic motor compared to, like, if you, let's say you've got 2 racks. You've got an LB7 with a cab off, and you've got a 6-liter with a cab off, and you've got your boards on the frame, with all your parts. You literally have half the parts on your boards from the 6-liter as you do the Duramax. There's just a lot less in that rotating assembly. Like even simple stuff like they have hydraulic lifters in them, so the valve train's not adjustable. There's just a lot of simple stuff to them. When I first started doing them, I had no experience in them, and I just figured it out. And I, like I said, I never had one back.
I think that's an anecdote, not a standard, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it is this guy doing any budget build is a guy that reads a lot online, spends his time on there. There are endless write-ups on forums on DIY guys doing this. You see 75-year-old men doing their head gaskets on their 6-liters. It's not rocket science. Ford made it pretty easy to get the cab up on them, and once you have the cab up, they literally fall in and out of place.
Fair enough.
So, I if it was a 6.4, that was why I strayed away, because that is not a user-friendly truck at all. That needs, even I dislike working on those trucks.
Right.
It's a pain. But when it comes to 6-liters, if you do a little bit of research before you tear into it and just look at, some pictures of what you're getting into, analyze all the parts you've got sitting in front of you, and, you see how they mount to the truck, where they go, read the instructions for each part. It's pretty simple. I think I would rate it as if a guy can do a set of LB7 injectors on his LB7, he's capable of doing 6-liter head gaskets.
What do you think, Chris? Do you think injectors are a simple job? How about we even make it simpler and say not on a Duramax and do a simple job like injectors on a Cummins?
Where's it coming from? I don't want to sit there and say injector jobs are easy. I definitely will say we saved the best for last with the
rotted ass 24 valve,
with the budget build and everything like that. Unlike you two, working on one of these trucks, you can do at your house, in your garage, or in your gravel driveway if you want. I've proven that. You can definitely train a monkey. You can train a monkey to work on a Cummins. It's a proven fact this day and age. So the truck that I chose for a budget build is a 98.5 to a 2002 24 valve Cummins. I'm
sorry.
44.
Right, I did.
Death codes.
I've personally built one of these trucks on a budget, and I've walked both a 600 horse 6-liter and a 600 horse LB7 Duramax.
Allegedly.
It's a proven fact. So I know that this is a build that can work. I went a little on the high side for the truck. I was finding them for $3,000 to $4,000. If you want to get a nice one, you're going to pay $5,000 to $7,000.
Or 10 for a rotted one.
You got to look, just like everything else. But I did find several, about 6 of them, and I have links saved, so I can provide that for everyone here. If we do an automatic, we're going to have to do a transmission on that truck. The transmission's going to run, depending on where you go, anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000. Again, that will be a trans that harness 600 to 700 horse, 1,100, 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, somewhere in that ballpark. With that being said, we go right into the tuning. These trucks can't be tuned with EFI Live or any custom tunes at that point, so we'd go with an Edge comp box. An Edge Insight CTS monitor is a gauge display for boost, exhaust gas temps, things like that. Then we went with a set of injectors, so I went 120% over stock for the injectors. That's enough injector to support 700 horse plus. A fast lift pump, we know what they cost, $611. Then I went with a BD Super B Special turbocharger. It's a 64 millimeter compressor wheel, 71 turbine. A set of ARP 12 millimeter head studs with a fresh head gasket. If you take the head to a local machine shop, get it cleaned and decked, there's about $150, $200 there, and a fresh head gasket. With a 4-inch cheap exhaust, you could pick them up for $300, $350. I'm right around $14,000, so I still have.
But you gave me ranges
left
on everything. You didn't give me specific. So if you average
so what
it
I
all
did,
on the low
I averaged
side,
everything middle. I went straight down the middle on all my averages for the trans and the truck. Okay, so I went straight down the middle. I was very conservative and I was very fair on everything that I did. This is a truck that you're going to buy something in the 150 to 200,000 mile range. This is something you're doing a fresh head gasket on where those are failure points. You're having the head cleaned and gone through. You're doing fresh injectors yourself. You're doing a fuel system yourself. You're putting a new turbocharger on it yourself. You're going through the trans yourself or having a shop do it. This is a truck that could potentially last another couple 100,000 miles.
2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive?
4-wheel drive. So we're not budget doing a 2-wheel drive.
How many boosted launches is that front end going to hold?
I mean, it's a solid front axle. Why don't you tell me? I mean,
how many death wobbles before the truck ends up in
I
the
can
ditch?
just say, Pete can contest on this as well. I had a truck that was this setup, and we had a buddy that had the same exact setup.
You forgot
that you
valve
had.
springs.
Valve springs aren't going to be needed until you're doing twins or over 50 pounds of boost on a VP truck. So it's not something that's going to be needed right away or at all, unless you did more fuel or did an injection pump upgrade, because that's your limitation is the injection pump itself. This is a setup that will run circles on a Duramax that year. The truck's lighter. The torque curve's much different.
What's it run at the track? Give me a number.
A truck like this, Mark Downing, you know him very well,
I do,
as do
yeah.
I.
Downing's a
He
great
was
guy.
he was in the 1190s on a cab and a half long box on 33-inch tires.
Bullshit.
You can go on Cummins for him on his build thread, and he can provide all the all the track.
Oh, we'll be checking.
I mean, you
Oh,
can.
we'll be
I'll get it.
fact
I'll get the
checking.
link right now. I'm just saying that this is a setup that you're dealing with a motor that can potentially the bottom end can handle 1,000 horse. If the truck's mechanically sound and you take care of it, this thing will last 3 times longer than the LV7.
Why'd you sell
Or
your
3
setup then?
VP pumps.
Thank you.
Because my boss propositioned me to buy a common rail. In regards to Shibby's truck, yeah, you might be going through an injection pump. They do have a bad name in the industry, just like the 6 liters do. But if you have the proper supporting modifications, a lift pump, you really don't run into that issue. You're probably going to go through multiple head gaskets, LB7 6 liter, before you have to replace the injection pump on a VP truck. And replacing the VP pump is a driveway job. It's going to take you 2 to 3 hours, and anyone can do it. It is very simple. You have a 17 millimeter, you have a couple other useful tools, and it's basically a walk in the park.
What size injectors?
120% over stock.
Oh, okay.
What I can also say too is, yeah, I lost it. No, but I cannot. What I was gonna say is, everyone here. I know I have a limited supply of tools at my townhouse. Everyone here, if they go into their toolbox, they could probably grab all the tools needed to work on this truck and install all these parts. Pete,
Building a trans.
you would have the trans built, so installing and uninstalling the trans, along with everything else that I had listed, you could pretty much do it on any household toolkit.
I guess I'll agree to disagree on that, because if you have the resources to drop a trans in your driveway, you probably have the resources to jack your cab up a few feet off the ground and roll the chassis out from underneath it.
I mean, if you're creative, and I'm not going to say you're
I
not,
mean-
because
I mean,
we've
seen
done
some
it.
creative,
We've
yes.
pulled
Oh, yeah.
cabs. We've pulled cabs. I've done cab swaps in my barn with 4 guys, and we lifted it and swapped
Oh,
it
yeah.
body to body. It is possible if you're creative and you have a couple friends, and that's where this industry really ties everyone in. You have a couple friends, whether they own a Chevy, a Ford, or a Dodge, you get them together, they lend a helping hand, and you basically get the job done a lot quicker. And our friend group, we've always done that.
I hear you.
But longevity wise, truck wise, The Ford
I don't
guys,
think any of you have owned a truck long enough to talk about longevity, to be honest with you. I don't
I
think
just
any
bought
of
a
us
6
three.
liter actually, so I'm doing my own little budget build.
I mean, every truck that I've built, they are still on the street. So whether I was enjoying them or the next guy, so I don't really care.
Paul, what about you?
Got him.
No.
Yeah. Most of the vehicles I've owned are still together.
That are back in service.
Awesome.
The
All right.
flatbed.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, should we just go around and do quick? You guys want to do closing comments, and then I will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Decide.
I'm going to jump right on that one, Scott, and go first on this. I'm talking about 3 modifications and a tune. That's it. That's all it takes to bring an LB7 Duramax in healthy condition up to 600 horse, running under 13 seconds.
Your
3
truck
modifications
your
and a
truck
tune.
is also taking someone's word with
Mm-hmm.
modifications that have already been done. Me and Pete are taking bone stock trucks and doing every modification ourselves.
I mean, you're counting intake, exhaust, and lift pump
We're
as
talking.
these huge
We're
modifications.
talking injectors,
They're
lift
standard.
pumps, turbochargers.
Yeah,
we're talking
there's
everything.
a lot of
Right, 'cause
side
you have to.
factors. I don't want to say that you're wrong or not because I'm not, but there's just like I know my build seems way over the top, but I literally built, I spent hours on this, thinking of this kid literally has 15 grand to spend on a truck. I want to make it the most reliable truck that, this truck's going to be turnkey. It's, year-round daily driver that, he can drive every day of the week, and all the bases, all the problematic areas within that specified engine have been
Right.
covered. Whereas, and now, Chris, I'm not going to knock on you either, but there's other areas that you guys left gray areas where next week, after this $15,000 build occurred, if a VP44 shit or a rear end shit, in the rear end thing, that's,
you know what? That's not necessarily the case, but I also had $1,000 left over, and a VP pump cost $980. So there's my
Truth,
$20
truth.
left over, like you had a couple cents.
add in that shipping, and you're going to be over budget, though.
Sure. I had 570.
Most mail orders are
not
free
gonna get me
shipping.
much.
XDP Alligator $980 free shipping. So
What did you have for transmission mods on that?
And then
Suncoast GMAX 5.3 kit.
And who is doing the build on that? Was that a self build?
Yeah.
okay, so not many guys do that. You pitch it on phone every day. You can go to your mom and pop trans shop. 9 out of 10 times they're spending money twice. So that is also another invalid part of the build. You're
don't
gonna
feel like
pay.
that is
You're
an
gonna pay
invalid part of-
$5,000. You're gonna pay $5,000 for the build minimum.
No, hold on.
Doing the work yourself,
Hold on.
installing-
Pump your brakes.
No,
pump your brakes.
Pump your
Ricky.
brakes. 3
Okay.
pumps.
Okay, listen. Here's the thing on doing a Suncoast GMAX 5 kit. If you're doing a budget build and you're doing all of this other work yourself, it is entirely possible to do a transmission.
What work
at
were
home.
you doing? There was only 3 parts.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
guess
You
I'm just
swap
lost.
out a turbo. Okay,
And,
what
and
I'm
an
saying is that-
LB7 turbo, I'll tell you what, that is a very intensive labor
is.
job.
intensive
And,
labor, but not
and I
complicated.
will agree with you to an extent to back my cause that if a guy can build his own transmission, and I build Allisons for a living every day. There's a lot of little tips and tricks that you learn doing it every day that make a build over what the guy that does it in his garage will. But to the guy that wants to build his own transmission, that's perfectly fine. But I think if your guy's capable of servicing his Allison and rebuilding it and installing a turbo on an LB7, that, my guy can do head gaskets
I'll
on
concede
his
that.
truck.
I'll concede that.
On Chris's truck, you go on Cummins for him. Yeehaw. Those guys will do anything and everything to those trucks, and that's why they leak so much oil and mint.
That's within reason. I don't know how many 6 liters I've seen on a tow truck after being quote unquote bulletproofed.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I will back that up.
there's-
I will
you
back
can
that
knock-
up that
You can knock my build. I can knock your guys' build. But the one thing that you guys can't argue is how many million-mile 6 liters have you seen roll through the shop?
Oh,
or in general?
absolutely. No,
you haven't.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
LB7s, maybe a handful at best. We're going off of a platform that is not only a budget build, cannot harness double the power that I'm making on the truck, but it's going to be a long-term vehicle if it's maintained just like anything else.
That's what I did with mine too.
So
And,
gaskets, anything like that. With what I have in the head gasket price, that would be a top engine gasket kit. To do an oil pan gasket, a tappet cover gasket, and the front timing cover gasket, you're adding another $60-$70 there, at best.
Sure.
I will agree that the Cummins stuff is probably the cheapest. to
far.
work on. Yep,
right.
absolutely.
All right.
And
And
they
anyone
are
can work on it.
They're
That's-
probably dollar for dime, probably the cheaper of the trucks to make power with, outside of the transmission, which is extremely expensive.
I 100% agree.
That
I
is
agree with that.
What we'll do now, we'll go Pete, we'll do closing, and then we'll take it over to Chris. Keep it going. It's going great. You guys are still maybe a little bit of cross meld going on.
It feels good. I mean,
it does. It should.
This was actually, to me, a lot of fun.
Good.
I went into work early the past 2 days and just sat in my office, researching, looking on forums at what other guys were doing. And obviously I had an idea of exactly what I wanted to do, but I wanted to guarantee that, my numbers would be accurate.
I mean, you found that score with the base truck of 3,500. That's what saved your build.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I feel like if you didn't
if,
find that
if,
score, it's not
I
possible.
found a few others actually in the $4,000 to $5,000 range. You'd be surprised.
You see them for
But
that.
what
I do.
But what I like about this one is, number one, it's a 1-ton, so it's got the heavy duty front axle.
Right.
It's a solid truck. It's got a simple electrical problem. It's got a few new parts on it already, so that's further benefit to the owner down the road. Less things he's got to replace. It's local. It's not. I mean, not to knock yours, but you got to figure in drive time and whatnot, fuel costs on that. I mean, this thing is literally within an hour of us. It can be picked up. I mean, obviously,
Casey's it'd be a long trip. I mean, 8-hour drive.
Yeah.
Right?
So
it'd be a long trip, but I do have the money in the budget for it.
Yeah,
$570.
absolutely.
Go get it.
So I mean, I just kind of wanted to utilize as much as I could of that money to build kind of, diesel owners are all about bragging. I mean, we've all been around it. I mean, Chris's truck's a very simplistic build, as is yours. Mine, yeah, there's way too much parts going on in it, but it's cool to say you have all that stuff. I mean, you've got a lot of aftermarket parts in this. And the nice thing, too, is, doing the valve springs, doing the push rods and stuff like that, you're building a really good base down low. 6-liter bottom ends, arguably, some guys say 650, some guys say 750, just like the LB7s.
Right.
Obviously, it's not a dinosaur like a Cummins where you can throw 1,100 at it before it pops the rods out of the side of the drag strip and bounces them off the tires.
Sounds very
and
specific.
Mustangs next to you.
It's very specific.
Those were common rails.
Yeah.
The earlier motors are much more stout.
But, I just kind of wanted to go over the top and make something cool that, this guy could be proud of and show off. There's a lot of, very good quality parts on here that, not only are going to make the truck look nice under the hood, sound nice, drive nice, be fun. And, I just final calculations on it. That truck is anywhere in the range of 6,800 to 6,900 pounds dressed. He spent a little bit of time tearing away at it to set it up more for drag racing. You can get it down to the 65, 66 range. I estimated low on my power, 600 to 625 at the rear tires, guaranteed.
Yeah.
I know it will make more than that, but let's think, respectively here, this guy may not have access to a good custom tuner or something.
Right.
You look online and that setup without, the push rods, the valve springs, the intake manifold and stuff, just the guy that literally slaps injectors, a pump, and a turbo bolt on his 6-liter, he's running, very low 12s. There was one guy that was a 1217 with that setup, and it was in a 2-wheel drive truck. And obviously 2-wheel drives are a little more effort to drive.
A lot,
With
yeah.
a 4-wheel drive, you do have a little more added weight, but you also get off the line a hell of a lot quicker.
Yeah.
If you know how to drive it. And, this was, like I said, a DIY guy that was doing it. So nothing fancy for rear tires. He didn't have drag slicks on it.
Okay.
So
you met your horsepower and your speed requirements. Okay.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
with you.
And same thing with torque. 6 liters actually really don't move good air through the heads. That's why I put the ported intake manifold on to hopefully bring a little more bottom end to it, because that's where they struggle. I will be over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque with that setup, but it probably won't be, in the 1150 to 12 range. Sure your truck would be, in the 1,100 range.
Right.
His truck would probably be, obviously manual trucks, if it was a manual truck that you picked, it's going to make a much broader torque curve.
Yeah, and there's a lot more money into the budget there as well.
Yep,
but,
exactly.
quarter mile time was in
the
mind.
big thing. Is a big clutch is a good dual disc or triple disc setup is an expensive clutch. You'll have $3,000 into that. But the only problem there is you put a manual in it, and you better know how to shift that thing quick.
That's why
if you're wanting to break 12s.
That's why I chose the automatic, and kind of
absolutely.
to close out on mine, the price point that I had on the truck was a mid-range, that 5 to 7. I calculated it at 6. I have found trucks for 3 or 4. I have bought trucks for 3 or 4 that were mechanically sound. So it is possible. But I wanted to be fair to anyone that is looking and to have a nice selection of vehicles, to go through.
Fair enough.
Maybe get a little bit of a cleaner one. Again, if I was the buyer and I had 15 grand, I'm trying to build something that I'm going to keep for a while. I want something that I'm going to take pride in. Just like Pete's, $3,500 6-liter, the exterior wasn't horrible on it. The cab corners were intact. It wasn't rusty. A couple dents. I mean, it was a fleet truck its whole life.
Right.
But it was respectable if the guy got some more money down the road, threw some wheel tires on it.
Yeah, it'd be a beautiful
Harley
truck.
Davidson headlights to spruce her up.
With everything that I did in the build, even with an injection pump to basically touch base on every part of the fuel system, the trans, head gaskets, everything. This is a reliable truck at that power level, 575 to 625, so maybe a couple horsepower less than you guys. But this truck is going to be significantly lighter than your trucks. And I mean, there's been multiple guys that run that quarter-mile pass that have made those dyno numbers. Every truck's going to be a little different. But, I mean, this is going to be a stone-cold, reliable 600-plus horse truck that you could drive any time of the year. You're not going to have to worry about head gaskets. It's done. Injectors, they're done. The transmission's been gone through. The injection pump is replaced. You just put your own fuel system, intake, exhaust on here. You're not taking someone else's word for those components. And this is a truck that you purely can do yourself in a weekend or two with a couple buddies. It's been done. It's been proven. So the most simple build out of the 3, I'd say.
I will say with Chris that, we did the majority of those upgrades on his old truck.
In a gravel driveway.
Yep, and in a gravel driveway, and with very, very poor quality, minimal tools to work with. I guess I'll just throw a quick in on mine, too. Despite the what everyone thinks, you don't have to pull the cab off a 6-liter to do head gaskets. You can do them in the truck. You can pull the motor. There's a lot of shops that will not do them pulling the cab. They, swear by doing them in the truck. It's all personal preference at that point. I mean, I like to sit on the tire and torque heads. I don't like to be doing it from a topside creeper. But like I said, it's all, obviously doing it in the truck is going to make it much more user-friendly. And being that this is a drop-in style setup, it's all achievable in the truck.
Of course. I mean, that's what the whole goal here with this was. So
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I noticed nobody mentioned that really would have put it over the top is the black ice air fresheners that I usually see.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you guys
I had
know your audience, man. Come on, you throw 5 of those and that's guaranteed.
I mean, that would have been
Can
a
I add
shitty
stickers
staple
to
right
I
now.
have a
Right
little
now.
over $19 left, so I could probably
There you
buy
go.
AutoZone out.
Get it up. Well, all right. So I guess taking all things into consideration, I've definitely come to a decision. So with the Duramax, the LB7, the issue we do run into is that a lot of it is you're kind of leaving it up to somebody else. You might be buying somebody else's issues. You don't really know.
I mean, same with all of them.
Well, yeah,
Pretty
for sure.
fair. Pretty fair to say.
I mean, we're replacing everything on ours.
Yeah.
But
so I mean,
but hold on. He's going off the basis that there's just a wiring harness issue, and that's true.
I agree with that. I'm buying the mechanically sound truck and replacing
You're-
everything. You're right.
There you
You're
go.
assuming when you show up, yours doesn't have a death wobble. So
Well,
so
I
there
mean-
are
I mean, you're not. You're picking out the truck. I mean, again,
If you
You're-
read through the ad,
All right,
it's
all
at
right.
a shop right now.
Okay.
And
okay.
it's been diagnosed as a bad wiring harness.
You're right. No,
No, it's
everybody tells the truth on Craigslist. They fact check.
no, you're
that.
right.
So
That's
I will-
why you would
all
go
right.
with
So
cash.
we all have.
Here, let me start by saying this. They're all great choices.
Okay,
Every
now pick
single
the
one.
winner so we can
I
go.
could see myself driving all of these. You ready?
Yeah.
However, I have to pick one.
You're
I
right.
have to, unfortunately, and I am torn. Why? Because I like all you guys the same, and I got to work with a couple of you, and actually I work with all you guys. So here we go. You ready for this?
Yeah,
Let's
I'm
hear
ready.
it.
Here we go. All right. So the issues are with the Duramax. Duramax is unfortunately not gonna make it because it's the highest probability of someone else's issues. from
This
what I've
shit's
heard.
rigged.
See, there you go. You asked me. This is your idea. The Cummins. So the setup on the Cummins is the 120% over injectors with the 64 millimeter turbo. I see that thing rolling coal.
It's not the same in the common rail setup. You have to
Okay.
think that we're starting with a much smaller injector as a base. So the truck isn't going to be running as dirty as what you would think
Okay.
running, 100% over injector on a common rail truck and much more of the detuning to get the smoke out
Still
of
the
it.
smokiest of the three.
Yeah, and that's my concern.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
And you know how I feel about Cummins. It pains me to say that.
I mean,
that
if
it's
you
not
pick
gonna
Pete
make it
right
happen.
now, I'm not showing up to work tomorrow. I promise.
I did
I'm
not
holding
get-
you to that.
That's it. There you go. So I am gonna go with Pete. I feel like also just
6 liter prevailing.
6 liter per. You know why? Because I think we need to get more Ford guys listening to this show. So I got to do this.
Yes.
But I still think you guys did an awesome job.
Thank you.
I learned a ton on this. You tearing that up? I wanted that.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Here's what we'll do: is
We're gonna use
we
that for our
keep
show
that.
notes.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna put the links for all of these items into the show notes as well, so people can actually see.
I have to save that on my computer. So
You have to have me. Okay, good. Yeah, so people will be able to, if you heard something that you're interested in and you're like, you know what, that Cummins, that is exactly what I want. I want that. I want to live Chris Ehmke's life. We're gonna put links up,
join the club.
and it'll do that.
I brought 6 liter head studs with me
Yeah.
as a prop, and I was hoping that we were going to be on camera.
Well, the
but
thing
not.
is usually 6 liters in a couple 100,000 mile, usage. It'll go through about 3 sets of those with head gaskets. So, I mean, that's great. You're a firm believer of those. I like it.
well, I mean,
Do you buy those in bulk?
You could.
yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. We do a lot of them.
There you go. You could, yeah, Rich. Yeah, we got our awesome producer Rich get a picture of. If you want to, you maybe shake it in front of the mic so people can.
That's ARP
there you
right
go.
there.
That's
That is the ARP
That's
sound.
the sound of quality. That
Yes.
is the sound of quality. So we'll go ahead and just kind of close out. I like to, special thanks to Pete for coming in, Chris for moving, 15 feet to your left from your desk. Thank you for doing that.
It was a long trip.
That was awesome. And then as always, Paul.
Absolutely. And Scott, I'd just like to say thank you for Pete and Chris for joining us today. Rich for producing the episode. Scott for hosting and mediating as much as we would let him. It's been a real blast, guys.
You guys are animals.
All right. Well,
Yeah, thanks for inviting me down. I probably went a little overboard with it, but I had a blast.
That was awesome.
Well, there it is. The Ford 6.0 wins the budget build contest. Who would have thought? I do want to say thank you very much to Pete Shibby of WC Fab, Chris Ehmke of Duramax Tuner for coming out. We really appreciated your guys' attendance in this.
That's the most fun I've had sober in I don't even know how long. So that was a blast.
This has been another production of the Diesel Performance Podcast. Thank you to our sponsors and producers.
Yep. Be sure to visit us at dieselperformancepodcast.com. I'm Scott.
And I'm Paul. Thank you for listening.
The Diesel Performance Podcast is brought to you by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of DuramaxTuner.com, developer of performance engine and transmission calibrations for a wide variety of late model diesel powertrains, including the Duramax, Cummins, John Deere, Jeep, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920.